This video has been made with the purpose of education and awareness of real crimes, and there is no disrespect intended to anyone. This is to help promote truth and justice for anyone who has been a victim of crime. What I'm about to report is what I have researched online, and I will welcome any corrections should they be required. Hello little berry true crime fans, Zeri Berry here. A bit of a different kind of look today. I have my glasses on so the lighting's not all the same as it used to be, because otherwise you'll end up with ring lights in my glasses. So I also apologise if you hear any cluttering or banging about. My other half is in the other room doing some rearranging of furniture, so I hope my microphone doesn't pick up on it, but if it does, I apologise in advance. Before we get into the case, I want to say thank you so much to anyone who has subscribed to my channel and keeps coming back and watching. If true crime is something that you like to watch on YouTube, please consider giving this a subscribe and a like and a comment, and it would really help me out because this is something I really want to take seriously. And if you do subscribe and put on the notifications, you don't have to keep checking back all the time. You'll get something pop up on your phone. I really would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. For this case, we are going to Pakistan, and most notably the Punjab area and Karachi, the nation's capital. This is the second, and I use this term very lightly, honour killing on this channel, because I don't like that word. It is not honourable to kill somebody, even if you don't like what they've done with their lives or you've heard a rumour about them. It doesn't justify murder at all. Although you would have heard this disclaimer at the very beginning, I wish to emphasise there is absolutely no disrespect intended at all whenever I talk about culture. This is based purely on my research, and I will make sure I keep my personal opinions to a minimum on this channel because I do have very strong opinions. So-called honour killings are not uncommon in Pakistan, and unfortunately it is actually women who are subjected to these honour killings more than men, because although this is a very patriarchal society, the responsibilities even of men's actions somehow falls to women, or women are used as scapegoats for behaviours of other members of the family, and they are often murdered for, even if you could call it a transgression, to talk to a member of the opposite sex who is not related, if you're shown to be flirting or exhibiting what is deemed inappropriate behaviour, if you are unfaithful, and sometimes these killings are extremely violent. It happens all over the world in many different cultures, but there was one particular so-called honour killing in Pakistan that received international news and could potentially help to change the law in Pakistan. This is the case of Qandeel Baloch. Born Fawzia Azim to parents Anwar Bibi and Muhammad Azim on the 1st of March 1990 in the Punjab area of Pakistan, Qandeel Baloch broke the conservative rules of her culture that dictates women should be modest, cover up, uphold family honour, marry who they're told to marry, behave in a very reserved manner, raise the children, and most of them didn't even have jobs or careers, but they basically had to accept their position as secondary citizens to men. This is often used under the guise of religion, or religion is sometimes used to justify it, but it is actually nothing to do with religion. It is simply to do with culture and mindset and traditional beliefs that women have a certain code of conduct. But as I said before, sometimes if a man does something wrong, such as if he rapes a woman, unfortunately, it's the woman who is often vilified as if she brought this on herself. These teachings and these traditions are brought down from one generation to another, so everyone in that generation obtains that mindset about the gender inequality and also the code of conduct of people in general. This fear, not only of killings and grievous bodily harm in some cases that can happen, but also the lack of justice in that so many people get away with spousal abuse, rape and murder, leads people to live in fear. Qandeel was actually one of 9 children, and she grew up in a rather rural area. And if you can imagine, having 9 children, her parents had their work cut out. They had a lot to provide for. So they had a farm, and they only just about scraped a living by, but they did it. They raised their kids. Qandeel actually, she would run around the area and play with her brothers and sisters. Apparently she would climb trees. She was extremely energetic. She was a wild spirit, almost like a whirling dervish. When I read about Qandeel, she reminded me of Maria from The Sound of Music, someone who just loved to go out and sing and love life, and was constantly on the go or full of energy and not quite suited to the life that was expected of her. This big and strong and feisty personality fueled a desire in Qandeel to make it big. She wanted to be famous. She wanted to be famous not, for singing, dancing and acting, which is something she loved doing, and she did a lot of it at school and at home. When she was watching television at home and there was a song that came on, she'd get up and dance. She also used to sing and dance at weddings and at family gatherings. But she was also a very good student. She made sure she completed her studies. She was very close to her parents. She was generally a very good girl, but she also had that fire. The place in Punjab where they lived was a place called Shah Sadir Din. I do apologise if I'm mispronouncing that. That upheld very strict Baloch customs, which is basically the subculture that Qandeel's ancestry came from. And in such cultures, as Anwar Bibi actually mentioned, they would marry their daughters very young, way younger than the age of consent in the UK. So basically they would be child brides. And this was no exception for Qandeel. I've seen conflicting reports on this about how old Qandeel was when she was forced to marry a man who was distantly related to her mother. And this was a marriage that her parents had signed off on. I don't know whether they brokered it, but they agreed to it. Qandeel had no choice. Anwar Bibi said that she was about 13 or 14 years old, but other sources I've seen said she was 17 or even 18 years old. But either way, she was very young. For all intents and purposes, she was a child when she was forced to marry. This man was called Ashiq Hussain, and during their marriage, Qandeel gave birth to a son. She was the best mother that she could have been, but Qandeel was subjected to beatings and torture at the hands of her husband. She reported of not only being beaten, but electrocuted and burnt several times. She was so unhappy. She ran back to her parents several times and said, "But this is happening to me," or she only told her mother. But her mother said to her, she told her to return home and to just learn to live with it, accept it. So basically you have to accept being abused and beaten for the rest of your life. She did not want to accept her place as a literal and metaphorical punching bag for her husband. She had aspirations of having her own career. She wanted to become an independent woman in her own right and live life the way she wanted to live it. At one point, Qandeel took her son to a hostel. Her husband found her there, and it was a really, really bad place. It was actually a worse physical environment than where she was before. So he took both of them back home, but Qandeel could no longer bear these beatings. She had a choice to make: either stay there for the sake of her son and endure this abuse for the rest of her life and bear more children, or she can make a break for it and make her own way in life, and hopefully she would be able to still look after her son eventually. Qandeel actually lived with her husband and his parents, so it was a big family unit she lived in. She had to wait till everyone was asleep at night so that she could run away with pretty much nothing apart from a few clothes. And she ran all the way to Karachi. She never returned to Ashiq, but the price to pay for this was that he forbade her from ever seeing her son again. Now, she may have believed that one day she would be able to regain custody of him. Qandeel had another choice. She either went back or she stayed away and made her own way in life, and she chose the latter. Qandeel worked very, very hard in Karachi to earn her own money and pay her own way in life, but she wanted to be famous. She didn't just want to get a normal job and just about make it by. She wanted to make it big. She wanted to be rich and famous. Over the next 2 years or so, she took some modelling jobs, some singing gigs, as well as acting in some television dramas. So these were little bit parts, little jobs here and there. They helped to raise her profile a little, but it just was not happening for her the way she wanted. In December 2014, Qandeel auditioned for Pakistan Idol, and she wasn't successful, but her audition went viral. One of those follow around the contestant and get their life story before showing the audition type of feature. She wore a long sleeveless green dress, it was almost like luminous green, and neon pink leggings and black high heels. She had jewellery, her makeup was done. She was behaving in a very flamboyant and extrovert and provocative manner, was not afraid to say, I want to be famous, I love singing, it's my passion. But when she went and sang in front of the judges, she wasn't very good, and the judges were kind of cringing. She didn't take this rejection very well at all, but her personality and how much she loved the camera, and quite frankly how much the camera loved her, really caught people's attention. Like a lot of contestants that go on to these talent shows but are not what the judges are looking for, such as the cheeky girls in the UK, they still go on to have successful careers or be known for a long time after, purely because of who they are or how memorable their audition was. Qandeel was no exception to that. After this audition, she got herself an agent and decided to put herself out there a bit more and get more and more jobs. She even tried to launch a singing career, one of her songs being called Touch of Lady. Her makeup was very, very over the top and she was dancing in a provocative manner. But this still did not propel her into the stardom that she really, really wanted. So Qandeel turned to social media, specifically Instagram and Facebook. She also had a Twitter account, and one day when she was at the bank with her agent, she filmed herself with him in the background, and she started using a phrase which then became one of her catchphrases, which was, "How am I looking?" That actually was a phrase that a lot of young women in Pakistan started to use. The use of smartphones, iPhones or Android phones in Pakistan among the young people in Pakistan started to really pick up. Qandeel had this kind of rolling effect on the culture of young people in Pakistan. Social media was where she really, really shone. Her personality just buzzed through on those videos. She would diarize what was happening in life, and sometimes her videos were just plain funny, plain parodies and designed to make people smile. In many of them, she was very, very provocative. Qandeel was often described as the Pakistan Kim Kardashian, although I did read on Wikipedia that there are many other journalists who disagreed with that, saying that she was more prominent and she was more important to the culture in Pakistan than Kim Kardashian, because she was doing this for her own purposes, and she actually was stepping outside of what was deemed the norm for women in her culture. She was breaking the mold, she was making a statement. As her personality on social media grew, she started to feature in talk shows such as debates with other women or people who didn't share her views about women in general, or those who were either on her side or just had some questions about why she was doing this. One of the things she said, which was, it made me smile when I read it, when she was asked, about the videos that she's posting and how people don't like the videos that she's posting, her answer was, well, why are you watching it then? That is the best response. Her attitude was very much like, I remember Christina Aguilera saying, if I want to be sexy, it's for my own purpose. It's not for a man. It's not because I want to impress somebody. I'm doing all this because I want to. I'm expressing myself. So self-expression was what Qandeel wanted, and she wanted to go to the top, and she would do anything she wanted to get there. She was basically the epitome of girl power and independent women making it on their own. No matter how much challenge and pushback she had from people on talk shows, she remained defiant. Sometimes she'd get emotional, and sometimes she would start to get a bit animated as she was defending herself, but most of the time she stood her ground and remained her bold and brazen self. She did actually have a lot of haters. She had a lot of people tweeting nasty things about her, but that didn't deter her. She didn't care. She just carried on and carried on. After making it big and she started to reap the monetary rewards, she moved her parents into a larger house in Multan, Punjab, so she provided for them. Her father, in particular, was extremely proud of his daughter for how brave she was. Her father described Qandeel as his heart and his soul, his daughter and his son. She would always call to see how he was doing, and he also said there is no girl like Qandeel in the world. Qandeel was also so fearless and brazen that in March 2016, she said that if Pakistan won the cricket match against India that month, she would do a live striptease, and she actually posted a teaser of the striptease on Instagram, but Pakistan didn't win, so that striptease didn't come to fruition. But people were this sort of like elevated her a little bit more in terms of controversy, saying, is this really appropriate? In one such television debate, Qandeel was interviewed on a live TV show, and her opposition was a man called Mufti, and he was a religious cleric or scholar who very strongly challenged Qandeel's approach to her media persona. And there were certain pictures of her which were not nude pictures, they were just her in kind of skimpy outfits, that was censored. Qandeel said, is it a sin to wear a bikini? I'm not naked there. What's the problem? And the Mufti was saying to her, would you show this to your children, your father, your brothers, would they be impressed by this? However, there was a little bit of a charm there. There was something charming about the Mufti that made Qandeel smile, and he proposed the possibility of meeting up with her, which she agreed to. In June 2016, they did meet in a hotel room in Karachi. Now, Qandeel filmed and took photos of this particular meeting, which she then posted. If she wasn't controversial before, she certainly was now. Now, it was actually getting very, very serious. It showed Qandeel being rather flirtatious, rather audacious, and at one point she put on his hat, which was seen as quite disrespectful. Qandeel actually was saying in this video that he was being really nice to her, and he told her that he was happy to see her that day, but how she behaved here was seen as extremely shameful, but also not just for her, but also for the Mufti. His behaviour was also seen as shameful, to the point that he was actually dismissed from his position in a religious community or a religious group, I believe. I'm not quite sure which one it was. The Mufti was actually questioned several times, why did you do this? And he actually went onto another talk show with Qandeel. She claimed that he had proposed to her. He'd been married 17 times before. Apparently, he proposed to make her his 18th. He denied this. She kept saying to him, stop lying, you did this. The haters that Qandeel had on social media erupted. She actually started to receive death threats, and in a press conference when she was defending her actions, she got very upset. She was receiving calls from other countries threatening to kill her because of apparently how she behaved. Whatever happened with the Mufti, it wasn't the worst thing that somebody could do, but it was seen as extremely shameful. Qandeel decided that she didn't want to stay in Karachi. She felt that her life was in danger. So she moved back home with her parents in Multan, and she actually put on clothes to help disguise herself. So she started to wear the traditional burqa so that people wouldn't see who she was. There were reports that the Mufti had also threatened Qandeel, saying that he had followers in Multan, and so she wouldn't even be safe if she went there. But she truly believed that this was the best place for her. It was much safer than Karachi. On the evening of the 14th of July 2016, Qandeel and her brother Wasim and her parents sat down for a meal, and afterwards they all had a glass of milk and went to bed. The very next morning, Anwar Bibi was calling Qandeel down for her breakfast, but didn't get any kind of response. So she went to Qandeel's room and found her lying on her side on the bed, but she had a shawl over her head, which was very unusual, and it wasn't her shawl. Anwar removed the shawl and started screaming. Qandeel was dead. Her face was purple, there was bruising around her mouth, her tongue was hanging out. She was extremely cold. She'd been dead for quite some time. There was absolutely no way she could have been revived. It was clear this was not natural causes. Something had happened to her. The very night of the day that she was discovered, her own brother, her younger brother Wasim, went on national media and openly admitted that he had strangled his sister for bringing shame to the family. He insisted he acted alone, although Muhammad Azim was actually convinced that one of his other sons did help, and there were maybe a couple of other people involved and at least one of them, a getaway driver, who was connected to the Mufti. In Pakistan at the time, there was a law which meant that in the event of an honor killing, the murderer could be pardoned if the family forgave them. Wasim hoped that his father would invoke this law and forgive him. But Muhammad Azim, he was not going to forgive his son. He wanted his son to face the consequences and get the death penalty. Wasim pleaded with his father. He even broke down and tried to express some remorse. But Muhammad Azim was not having this. He was devastated at the loss of his daughter. He adored his daughter. He was proud of her. He said openly, how brave she was, that he missed her. And his own son had taken her away. Wasim was eventually convicted and he was sentenced to life. However, very recently, only a few weeks ago, the forgiveness law was actually invoked. Anwar Bibi, who had the power at this moment, now that Muhammad Azim has since passed away, she did forgive her son. I want to refrain from using my personal opinion in videos, but even if one of your children kills another child, would you genuinely forgive them? And even if you did, would you say therefore this forgiveness means that you no longer have to face consequences, you can be let go? Going back to Qandeel's murder, Wasim said the reason he did this was, of course he mentioned that she was apparently bringing shame on the family, but something had happened not long after the video with the Mufti came out. Nobody had given a thought before as to Qandeel's past, but someone had managed to get hold of her passport and they published it, and it showed her real name, Fawzia Azim. When Wasim's friends and colleagues in Punjab found out, he was subject to a lot of ridicule. There were even fights, and it wasn't just, being pointed at or being picked on. It went on for a long time and it got quite serious. He couldn't take it anymore. He had apparently asked her to stop and to go back to the life that was expected of her by her people. She wouldn't. She was living the life that she wanted to live. And there were reports that she was thinking of moving abroad for her own safety and those of her parents. The forgiveness law in Pakistan at the time of Qandeel's murder was under debate. I don't know what the progress on that is now. I would like to say, in my opinion, there should be no such law. If you do forgive somebody, it doesn't mean that the law doesn't apply. I mean, if you look at the case of Paris Bennett, who killed his sister, his mother has forgiven him, but she understands that he has to pay the price, which is finish off his sentence. I've had to forgive somebody in my life, but the price of that was cutting them out of my life. There's always a price for forgiveness, but forgiveness is something that you grant yourself, not just that person whom you are forgiving, if that makes sense. Qandeel's death was also hopefully going to change the way that honor killings are regarded in Pakistan, because they happen so often. But this one was very high profile, and because Muhammad Azim was not prepared to forgive his son, at least not at first, I think a few years later, not long before he died, he was prepared to. This was a game changer because this type of thing didn't happen. I don't like to use the word martyr, but Qandeel, her life, and unfortunately her death, is very significant with women's rights. There are some tweets that are still on her Twitter page, which you can still follow. There haven't been any updates in the last 6 years, but one of her last tweets said, "Life has taught me lessons in an early age. My journey from a girl to a self-dependent woman, all in caps, was not easy. #Qandeel." An earlier one said, "I will fight for it. I will not give up. I will reach my goal, and absolutely nothing will stop me. #Qandeel Baloch." And just before she died, Qandeel also released another music video for a song called Ban. The video for Ban is very racy. It shows Qandeel wearing very skimpy outfits and dancing very sexily. It's one of her most bold videos to make. She had unlimited potential. She could have gone further in her singing career, her acting career, modelling. I think she's one of the most influential, most admirable women of this age, and I hope she goes down in history books for that. She pushed the boundaries of what is normal in her culture, and she was fearless in that, and I admire her for it. I just want to get onto a little subject about honour killings, and here I will be giving my opinion, but this is something that you can always skip forward if you don't want to hear my opinion, is that it just boggles my mind why people think that killing somebody is the answer to what they consider to be shameful. If you don't like what someone else is doing, even if they are your family member, mind your own fucking business, because that's their life. And if you don't like it, if you're getting insults, then it's up to you to say, judge me on my own merits, judge them on their own merits, leave me the hell alone. And you don't get to blame somebody for what happens to them because of what they did with their lives. Absolutely does not. And it makes me sick that women are blamed for their own assaults and their own murders. That is disgusting. Honor killings do happen to men. It is more so with women. The whole thing about blaming the victim, this is the pinnacle of it. Killing somebody because of you don't like what they've done, or they may have done something wrong, like they may have been unfaithful to their spouse, but that's none of your business. And also, it's not up to you to take that person's life, and murder is not better than what they've done. It is 1,000,000 times worse. And I really hope that where honor killings happen, that they stop. They absolutely stop. Forced marriages should stop. Spousal abuse should stop. Nobody should have to live in fear. I would appreciate it if we can please just take a moment to remember Qandeel as the brave, bold and fearless woman that she was, and I admire her and always will. Thank you very, very much for watching, and if you want to watch any of my other videos, I do have a few playlists. If you have a case suggestion, let me know either in the comments below. I have an Instagram, Twitter, I also have a Facebook page, I have a TikTok as well. Hit me up there and I'll speak to you soon.